All systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday afternoon with my man, Rio. He's not in the usual place, as you can see. A nice little background there, some snow on the ground. That is not California. I won't say where it is. Rio can talk about that if he wants, though. But love the background. Got to say hi to everyone in chat. Only 4 games on the slate. Pretty good 4-gamer, I think, though. A couple studs. If you want to spend, Giannis, obviously the main one. AD coming off a monster game. LeBron, 10K. Those are the 3 that are above, or 10K and above on this slate. 2 games at 5:30, 2 games at 8 p.m. or 5:30 my time. Two games at 7:30, 2 games at 10 p.m. Eastern. So really easy 2.5 hour window. Get your first 2 games in. You can take a little break, eat dinner, do whatever you want to do. Hey, you can hit the gym if you really want to in that time. Come back 10 p.m. Eastern, night slates, and to finish it off, Jordan, Sean, wins a lot, Michael, Matt, Jason, Roddy, Big, Lyle. Already said Michael. Already said Matt. Oobs, Robert, Desmond, Easy Bets, Casey, Camden, Jordan. Hey, there we go. Look at that. Right away. Lori, Collins. Thanks, Jordan. Lori out, Collins out, Clarkson out. We were just talking about that pre-show, Rio. Renell in here, Jake in here as well. Rio, throw it to you right away. How you doing on this fine Tuesday afternoon? We were just talking about no Jazz news. There's some Jazz news right there.
Yeah, I got the Jazz news and the Bucks news right before getting on. Yeah, they're sitting everybody, so I was not surprised to see the spread. What it is, but yeah, kind of nice to get that injury news out of the way. Can kind of build with that in mind now, because I did have a little bit of interest in some guys in that game on the Utah side, but now makes it a lot easier to break down with all those guys being ruled out. I'm surprised they didn't list out Colin Sexton. I wouldn't be surprised if that came in a little bit too. But yeah, nice little 4-game slate. I like how it's broken up. Got a nice 2.5 hour window, so have a lot of free time. Probably going to hit the jacuzzi and just chill out, watch those 5:30 games. We're on the same time zone now, so yeah. So I'm looking forward to breaking down the slate. The new schedule too is nice. You're on a marathon this week. You got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So you're grinding over there, but yeah, I like the new schedule. I'm looking forward to doing these Tuesday through Thursday slates with you.
Yeah, always love talking ball. No complaints over here. Absolutely love what I do. So enjoy talking ball with BJ yesterday. Again, shout out BJ. Does a great job over here in the NBA streets, MLB as well. It'll be BJ Ham mostly Monday, Fridays. Me and Rio Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Any slate 4-game above. For that, of course, you'll see like me stepping in for Ham yesterday. We have life stuff as well, so we're always filling in for each other. But you will see a show Monday through Friday, 4 games and above, a quick hit on Saturday. Of course, slate plan, everything as usual. Walker Kessler also was out. I pulled that up from Sean Sullivan, calling out Jordan for missing that. Do you want to let the people know where your background is? You want to stay a little discreet?
No, I don't really care. I'm in Utah. I know we got a couple Jazz fans in our Discord, but yeah, I'm in Utah. Come out here from time to time. So yeah, always like coming out here in the winter, spend some time in the snow. Probably now that we have Mondays and Fridays off, we'll probably hit the mountain. Got an extra hour or 2, so definitely opens up the schedule a bit. I know we talked about it a lot, how I'm pretty much alone on having like the East Coast time zone for sports, because I like having those late start times, because I'm a late night guy. I stay up pretty late, get a lot of my work done late at night, and I don't know. I like to go to the gym on like 11 noon. Can't really do that now when I'm on the West Coast, just with getting prep for these shows and having to do the slate plan and be prepared for the injury stuff and the live show. So it makes it a lot tougher to get into the gym around when I like to. So I have to squeeze it in between games now whenever we get like a little hour break or hour and a half break. So
yeah, you definitely are a weirdo. One of the only ones that I know that like the East Coast time. Makes sense. You like being up night. Give me all the earliest times, 5:30, 8 o'clock, then I can go right to bed, get up early, hit the gym that way. Usually, lately, I'm at the poker table though all night, so it's not like I'm doing anything anyway, getting sleep. Wanted to bring up one thing quick, just broad slate overview kind of, then we'll go game by game. I do not think, I mean, sure, it of course can be Giannis AD on the winner. Actually, with all that Jazz news, maybe it does make it a lot easier. Initially, I was going to say, I don't think that's the way to go, but I mean, we do have some okay value. Like before, we had like Houston stuff. I think there's a couple, like a Moody Pods, sub 4K. I think we're fine. Some Philly guys, if you wanted to go like the Councils, the Justin Edwards of the world. But now with all this Jazz stuff, I mean, can you go AD and Giannis? My guess is actually probably yeah. But there is some solid mid-tier guy. I mean, shout out to Men Thompson. What a beast. Game winner there. But thoughts on this question, broad slate, then we'll go game by game.
Yeah, well, first off, I definitely want to shout out to Men Thompson and the Houston Rockets because they've had probably the most impressive wins in the last week or so. They beat the Grizzlies twice, they beat the Cavs twice, and then the reigning champs at home beat Boston with Amen Thompson getting the game winner there for a career high as well. So they're looking good. I almost replied to somebody on Twitter because they try to do a mock trade about getting rid of Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks. I'm just like, why are you trying to, like, for Zach LaVine too, which I think that would be a good pickup, but there's no reason to get rid of Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks right now when you're playing as well as they are. But yeah, as far as that question goes, I think it's definitely a lot more possible now because you take away 3 main rotation guys on the Jazz. We're going to be looking at a $4,100 starting center in Drew Eubanks, probably Philip Kowski or Svi. They're not really pure punt values now at their price tags, but I mean, even Collier is going to look a lot better. So yeah, I definitely could see those double spends getting there tonight because the mid tier is pretty weak right now. Definitely good that we got rid of Kessler and Laurie because those guys, just the Jazz, were overpriced as a whole. But these mid tier plays just don't look good. Like you can make a case that like Jalen Green, Fred VanVleet, Denny, Austin Reeves, like all these guys are kind of overpriced, and the upper tier guys are pretty solid. And I actually see a lot of plays in like the 4K, 3K range that are kind of going overlooked that I think could be pretty viable tonight. So I think the double spend looks pretty good.
There we go. Absolutely love it. We will start. I was laughing at this. I actually will be in Alaska in the summer, an Alaskan cruise, but I mean, I moved from Wisconsin to Arizona because Wisconsin was way too cold. I definitely can't be doing Alaska time zone wise, though. Maybe I'd like that. I don't know. All right, let's get to the first game of the night again. 4 games, 2 at 5:30, 2 at 7:30 Eastern, 2 at 10 p.m. Eastern. First one of the night, Los Angeles Lakers taking on the Philadelphia 76ers. Actually, one last thing. So we had one big spread. Like yesterday, we had a couple. It was the Warriors and the Jazz. I believe it was 12 when I looked, and now it's 14. So with that injury news, it moved 2 points. Otherwise, we have a 4.5, a 6, a 5.5, and then a 14. So 3 of the 4 games expected to stay close. But you never know. Like we just saw the Nuggets lose yesterday to the Bulls as 9.5-point favorites. Then you see Dallas as 12-point favorites absolutely blow the doors off. What was it, Washington yesterday?
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, you never know at the end of the day. But Lakers, Philadelphia 76ers, 218 total, which is the lowest on the slate. Lakers 4.5-point favorites. No injury news on the Lakers side to worry about. The same cannot be said about Philly, though. No PG, Drummond, Embiid, and Caleb Martin. I mentioned a little like value possibility. Like if we came in the slate and we didn't, all those Utah guys were in, I think some of the Ricky Councils of the world, the Justin Edwards of the world, maybe a little, yeah, maybe that's probably the only 2. Eric Gordon, I saw getting some, like all those guys definitely, I assume the ownership drops. Justin Edwards still, I think, looks decently strong at 3.8K. I'm more interested. I mean, he's going to be popular, but like Kelly Oubre at 6.2 looks really strong. Tyrese Maxey looks really strong for me at 9.8K. Lakers side, I don't know. I always hesitate going LeBron. Like it's always AD over LeBron for me. And I think AD is really the only play I see on the Lakers side I want. So start Lakers side since I think it'll take you less time. Philly looks a little more interesting, but really curious to hear your thoughts now that the Utah stuff, how does that affect the 76ers value?
Yeah, I'll get to that after break down the Lakers, because I do think that it is a pretty big just wrench in things for the slate, getting those Jazz values. But yeah, as far as the Lakers stuff go, I'm kind of interested in this game as like a potential game stack. It is also worth noting, we didn't really talk about this off the top, but every team besides the Sixers and the Blazers, I believe, are on the back end. Or I don't think Golden State is on a back-to-back, but pretty much over half the teams on the slate are on the back end of back-to-back. So kind of worth noting there. Just you could see some extended rotations or some closer games in this slate. But yeah, the Lakers coming as 4-point road favorites. I would expect it to be, expect these guys pretty close to full with LeBron and AD both playing 36 and 37 minutes. But it's also worth noting for the Lakers, they're on a huge road trip right now. I think this is their second game of a road trip. They're going to be on the road for like 2 weeks, something like that, like how the Heat were on that West Coast road trip not too long ago. But yeah, the injury stuff on the Sixers, no Joel Embiid, no Drummond, no George, no Caleb Martin tonight. Saw Justin Edwards get that second half start for Paul George last time out, so that's kind of what I'm expecting there. But the Lakers actually playing really good defense this month, ranking just outside the top 10 in defensive rating. They're seeing really big improvements on their rim defense and starting to take away pretty easy 3-point looks. They were really struggling earlier this season with their rim defense, but a lot of that was due to their transition defense being so bad. But their on-ball defense has been really good. They are allowing a little bit of isolation scoring, but pick and roll defense really good with Anthony Davis kind of manning things down low. For the Sixers, on the other hand, they're really struggling right now this month, ranking second worst in defensive rating. Rim defense always gets a lot worse with no Drummond and no Embiid down low, with Yabu being just an undersized center. And then on top of that, they're also bottom 4 in 3-point defense, and their transition defense is just behind the Lakers. So they've been getting a little bit worse there. Pick and roll defense is pretty good, though. But yeah, I think this is a smash spot for AD coming off of I believe this is his fourth 40-20 game last night. He led the slate in DK scoring. He's just going to have a huge size and just overall talent advantage over a guy like Yabu. And the Sixers bottom 6 defensive rim defense this month. They are the actually worst rebounding team in the league from a defensive rebounding standpoint. So that could lead to a lot of easy putbacks for AD. So I wouldn't be surprised to see another 20 rebound performance out of him, expecting him to be close to full, with the Lakers kind of needing to rack up wins against easier opponents. So I could see AD popping off in a really big way. 10.5K seems like a very good price tag for him. Don't love the upside as much for LeBron at 10K when these guys are priced as close as they are. But the matchup is going to be fine. Probably going to see Kelly Oubre on defense. But the Sixers are really without all of their best wing defenders. No Paul George, no KJ Martin. So yeah, I mean, it's a pretty good matchup for LeBron, but he's gone ice cold from deep, only made 1 3-point attempt in his last 11 over the last 3 games. Sixers are allowing the 4th most three-pointers per game, so at the very least, he should get some good looks here. But I definitely prefer Anthony Davis's upside. Pretty thin outside of those 2 up top. I do think Austin Reeves is pretty good at 7.8K, just on a small slate, getting little to no value or no ownership. I think that's something you should definitely look into. Kind of a sneaky beneficiary with Gabe Vincent sidelined. We saw that, the stretch where they got rid of D'Angelo Russell and Gabe Vincent was injured. Reeves was playing a ton of minutes, and then Gabe Vincent got healthy and was playing really well. We saw Reeves get cut down to like the 34, 33-ish minute range. And then now last 2 games, Gabe Vincent missed. He's right back up to 38, 39 minutes. So probably penciling him in closer to like 38 minutes tonight in comparison to what we have from projected and what I see around the industry. And if that's the case, just no really good guards on the other side. Probably going to have old man Eric Gordon on him for most of the game here. So I think this could be a pretty big spot for Austin Reeves against a weak transition defense. And with the low ownership, I think that he makes for one of the better plays on the slate. Rui should be back tonight. Jared Vanderbilt's going to miss just the injury management, but they are integrating Dorian Finney-Smith more, so I'm not really looking to get to those secondary pieces. Max Christie seems okay, but probably don't need to go there now with all the Jazz value. On the Sixers stuff, though, I'll start with Justin Edwards because he was one of my favorite values on the slate, and I still kind of think he is. I'm expecting him to start, and am kind of expecting a little bit of ownership to get taken away from him with all that Jazz value opening up. But 3.8K for him looks really good, and I think they'll let him run a decent bit. Yeah, I don't know. I like what I've seen from him. Undrafted rookie, kind of Sixers probably want to see what they have in him as well. So they don't really have a lot of good wings in general right now, so it's probably a lot of him and Ricky Council filling in for Paul George. But I think that Edwards is probably the better play at 3.8K, so I like him with the small forward, power forward eligibility. And then it's pretty much an X out outside of Maxey and Kelly Oubre. Maxey looks really good. We've looked to attack the Lakers with guards all season long. Maxey's had a great role with Paul George and Embiid out. This month, he's averaging 48.6 DK points per game. He's top 51 DK points in each of his last 4. Over the last 11 games, that's the 11 games is how long Joel Embiid has been out. He's had a 31% usage rate, 31.5% assist percentage, over 15 drives per game, and nearly 8 minutes of touch time. So, long story short, his role is elite, and the matchup is really good. So I like Maxey a lot here. And then Kelly Oubre, I think, is really good. I would say he's slightly under-owned from what I'm seeing. 26% looks really good for him. I'm probably going to be more than double the field on him at 6.2K. I just really like what I've seen from him as of late, playing a ton of minutes. The point per minute stuff is pretty modest, 0.94 with all the injury situation, but he's consistently seeing 37 plus a night, and I think that will probably happen again here tonight. So I think that just at the price, the role, rebounding rates have seen a huge uptick as well. I think he's probably the best, one of the best mid-tier options on the slate, in my opinion. And then lastly, I feel like I've been talking for a while, but Eric Gordon is a much better play than Ricky Council. Much different positional stuff, but he's shooting the ball a lot better. I saw a graphic the other day it was obviously a joke, but I remember he missed a couple games with the wisdom tooth surgery, and he was shooting like 21% from 3. And since he got the surgery, he's like up around 50%. So maybe that had something to do with it, but he's shooting the ball a lot better this month. So I don't mind Eric Gordon here.
Yeah, you're so impressive how you can talk that long about this game when I hardly had any interest, but awesome work. It's still the same thoughts really for me after listening to you talk. It's AD or bust on the Lakers side. I will say a very low, like a maybe single-digit owned Austin Reeves on a 4-game slate to help you get different, playing 38 minutes. I could get behind that for sure. Now, I don't love it at the price tag. I'd rather try and find $200 for Amin Thompson, but he's the clear pivot off of Thompson who's going to get more ownership. And again, 4 games, it's not like NFL showdown by any means, but you have to be a little more weary about your combinations, ownership, et cetera, especially in flagship stuff. So I don't hate the Reeves, really mainly AD or nothing Lakers side. You felt good about Eric Gordon, so I think he's solid for value. Definitely still Justin Edwards, who we expect to start. But yeah, Maxey, Oubre is still the main plays there. Like the Jazz, again, we don't have updated ownership projections yet, but it feels like these Jazz guys are going to definitely take a good amount of that Gordon, Council, Edwards ownership at value with how thin they are. So I still like them though.
Sorry, one last thing, because I did kind of skip over Yabu. I do see him getting a lot of ownership, and I think that's pretty bad in my opinion. Don't really want to attack opposing big men against a guy like Anthony Davis, who's playing a lot better defensively. Like I mentioned, the Lakers been very good limiting the rim scoring, and even the 3-point defense has been really good. I get it. Yabu's probably going to play a ton, but there's just a lot of foul risk going up against Anthony Davis, and I just don't think the matchup is very good. So I honestly might just like full fade Yabu.
What if he's 13%? What if he's like 14? Like, I think we're a little hot there. Would you still make that same thing if he was 13%?
If he's 13%, then I probably would look to be under the field. But if he comes in anywhere in like the 20 to 30% range, I think it's pretty bad in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd be shocked to see that, to be honest with you. I'm maybe high teens, but we'll get to the Utah value when we get to the Utah game. Last thing for Maxey. If I knew he had 48 points, I would have 0 on this slate.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think there are enough spend ups because like one of Dame or Steph Curry probably gets close to that tonight. I would say with their matchups, you're probably going to want 50 plus from Maxey.
Or I know different positions, but AD Giannis, if they get a 75 piece, like just roster construction wise in general, you'll need that. You play a salary based game. I wouldn't want 48, but obviously he can do a lot more. Wanted 2 other comments. Baseball Dad, what's going on? Always appreciate seeing you. Hope everything's going well. Took 11th in the $5 100K last night with 4 lineups. That is very impressive, Baseball Dad. Appreciate that comment. Then AZ Bob, been watching for you guys a couple weeks. Easily the best analysis strategy breakdown out there. Much appreciated. Much appreciated you, AZ Bob. You did not need to say those words, but we absolutely do appreciate it. Shout out Rio. Shout out Ham. Shout out BJ and the NBA team. Shout out to you, AZ Bob, for the very nice words. Thank you. Like button, subscribe button. That's all we ask. Bringing you shows every single day on the channel. All we ask is like button and subscribe button. If you do want more in-depth analysis, slate plan every week, or every day from our man Rio, projections, ownership, showdown content, core reports, etc. Just for NBA, MMA still going, PGA, NASCAR will be going before you know it. No better time to get in. We have best deal going. Ship 50 gets you $50 off your first month. Also does include Shiptimizer if you want that. Also includes the Discord. You think it's good in the YouTube chat and everything. Our Discord, second to none. What a great community we have over here. Ship 50 gets you $50 off your first month. Let's keep it rolling to the next game on the slate. Houston Rockets and the Atlanta Hawks. 226.5 total. Houston 6-point favorites. Injuries in this one. Cam Whitmore is questionable with an illness. No Tari Eason today. On the Hawks side, the biggest Q tag, Trae Young is questionable. And then we have no Jalen Johnson still as well. Second day of a back-to-back for both of these teams. Amen Thompson again with the sick game winner. He goes from no ownership yesterday to pretty popular at AK. We talked about it yesterday. Like, AK feels expensive, though. This dude is so good. He can fill it up in so many ways. Again, now he's getting ownership, so it's different than yesterday, but he looks strong. Yeah, I'll throw it to you on that note. I guess, what does Tari Eason being out do? If Cam Whitmore's out, is that really big? And can Dylan Brooks we talked shit about him yesterday and talk about, we had some good calls, definitely some bad calls. Dude drops 36 in our mouth, real ones. Is he going to do that again today? Break down this one.
Yeah, as far as the Tari Eason stuff goes, I would imagine that Cam Whitmore would probably be the biggest beneficiary from that. But he's questionable, like you said, dealing with the illness that kept him out last night. So definitely not guaranteed to go tonight. I don't think that they would really want to expand the rotation too much, but we would probably get something like a little bit more Aaron Holiday, especially if Trae Young is in. That would make more sense to get some more on-ball defense out there on a smaller guy like Aaron Holiday. But then they also have guys like Jeff Green that can mix in for a handful of minutes. Jayshawn Tate could definitely fill in that stuff. But you're probably just seeing a little bit more from the main guys. It is a back-to-back. They did play a ton of minutes last night, so kind of unsure how they would play it. But yeah, long story short, I would kind of imagine Cam Whitmore taking over that Tari Eason role a little bit more. He's already been playing pretty good minutes and playing pretty well as of late. But yeah, they have a couple ways they can go about it. And then, yeah, the Atlanta stuff with Trae Young being listed questionable with the hamstring injury, definitely pretty big news on the slate, because if he were to miss, probably going to get another start out of Keaton Wallace, and he'd be, I think, a very strong value. We'll get that news in time with that being the first lock time window on the slate. But yeah, I mean, that kind of it's kind of the whole story of the Hawks side of things, because if Trae is in, I think it's pretty easy to get away from this Hawks team as a whole. Now, in a 4-game slate, you definitely don't want to X a whole team out, but I probably wouldn't want more than one of these guys, maybe two, but probably more so on the more closer to one, I would say. This is just a really tough matchup with how good the Rockets have been playing this season defensively. And I will say that they've been playing a little bit worse, but they've ran into some really tough matchups. Like I mentioned, played teams like the Celtics, like the Grizzlies, like Cavs, like all really, really good offenses. So that could definitely inflate those numbers a little bit. But the rim defense has not been that great. I don't think Sengun is the best rim protector down low. They're definitely missing Jabari Smith a bit. He's an underrated rim protector, I would say. But Steven Adams playing well to kind of shore up that second line a little bit. About the Hawks on the other side, they're playing awful defensively right now. Not from a defensive rating standpoint, but just certain areas like their rim defense has gotten a lot worse, and it makes sense having I wouldn't say Okongwu was undersized, but just a different style of defender, especially in the pick and roll. Clint Capella plays a lot more drop coverage in the pick and roll, which is kind of better for the shooters, where Okongwu will play a little bit more aggressively. We could open up a lot of lanes for guys getting to the basket. So it definitely is reflected with their rim defense being dead last this month by a pretty wide margin. And then on the season, they're dead last in 3-point and catch-and-shoot defense this season, as well as being bottom 7 transition, bottom 4 pick and roll defense. So there's really a lot of ways that you can beat this Atlanta team they do play pretty fast as well. And Houston has been just rolling offensively really since Amon Thompson got into the starting lineup. So expect a ton of points from Houston tonight. Sengun been very consistent as of late, like the matchup, but it's been a really long time since we've had a score from Sengun that you'd really want in GPPs. I don't really know if I want to spend $9K for Sengun on a back-to-back. Not really that cheap of a tag. Probably prefer to look elsewhere on the slate for upside, but like I mentioned, the matchup should be pretty good with how bad the Hawks' rim defense has been as of late. They are giving up a lot more fantasy points to opposing big men over the last 2 or 3 weeks or so. So there's definitely a path for upside, but I'll just kind of go on record and say I don't really love Sengun as a spend up tonight. Definitely like Amon Thompson. I think the ownership is definitely earned at 40%, 50%, whatever he's going to be tonight. I definitely think he's earned that with how well he's played, and I think he's got a ton of upside in this matchup. Don't worry about him getting limited at all on back-to-backs. He's played 40-plus minutes on multiple back-to-backs this season, probably going to be playing 40 minutes tonight. All the things that he does well are the things that the Atlanta Hawks struggle to defend, which is transition and rim scoring. He's going to play all the minutes he can handle. No Tari Eason, definitely. I shouldn't really change his role too much, but slightly uptick his rebounding rates, things like that. But I think Amon Thompson's one of the better mid-tier or spend-up options, whatever you want to consider him. I think he's really good. Both the guards, Van Fleet and Jalen Green, in good spots here as well, with the Hawks giving up pick-and-roll scoring and three-point scoring. Jalen Green's kind of gone ice cold since being red hot earlier this month from shooting the ball. But yeah, no, I think that Van Fleet just has a slightly better floor, but I do think that Green has the more upside. So I would say Van Fleet probably safer for cash games. Green probably the guy you want in tournaments. But the prices are pretty fair on both these guys. Don't really have a strong take on either of those guys. Dylan Brooks, that game was pretty crazy last night. 10 for 15 from deep, putting up 36 real ones, 46.25 DK points. Did little to nothing else with only 3 rebounds and 1 steal, which is kind of what you expect from him. But he's a very streaky shooter. Maybe he's running into a hot streak right now, and if he's going to be, modestly owned tonight, then I kind of think it's okay. And power forward eligibility is pretty good for him. The Hawks are giving up a ton of catch and shoot scoring, so I think that the matchup should be pretty good for him. No Tari Eason, possibly no Whitmore could mean more minutes for him as well. So I think Dylan Brooks is a fine value play tonight. I would like Cam Whitmore if he's in. I think the matchup's good for him with the game being more fast paced. And then lastly, Steven Adams, I think, is a pretty solid value at 3.3K. I've been seeing a lot of talk from the beat writers in Houston saying that kind of the reason why we're seeing Adams playing so well is because he's finally fully healthy. Obviously had I believe it was an Achilles tear last season that kept him out for the whole season, and then was pretty limited to start the year, playing 12 minutes a night when he was active. Now he's we've seen him get up to 19 minutes, and on a back-to-back, didn't play a lot of minutes last night. Sengun played more than he usually does, so could see minutes kind of favor him a little bit more than usual. So I like a lot of stuff on this Houston side. Don't really like too much on the Atlanta side, but I think DeAndre Hunter's okay. 5.7K, pretty good for him. I think everybody else on Atlanta is kind of overpriced, in my opinion, outside of DeAndre Hunter. But it's a back-to-back. They're pretty cautious with his minutes. He played 32 last night, which is kind of on the higher end for him. And then randomly Bogdan got a DNP last night, so maybe he plays more tonight after being rested. I didn't really see why that happened or any reporting on that, but that was kind of weird. And then Reese Shea played pretty good last night, but he's probably still going to be pretty limited moving forward after he was out for a week or two.
It's just been weird with Bogdanovich all year. We talked about it, but yeah, I mean, so annoying. Shout out Jasmine. What's going on, Jasmine? Hope everything's going well. So my thoughts, I agree with a lot of what you said. So the Steven Adams thing, I agree with the Sengun stuff for sure. I don't love box score watching, but there's a lot of good spend-ups on this slate that have big-time upside. Sengun obviously does, but we just haven't seen it at all. And I respect Onyeka Okongwu a little bit, so I don't love the 9K price tag there. Same thing, I guess, with Fred VanVleet. You could throw Jalen Green in there. I do both good matchups for them both. I do like Jalen Green's upside way more. If someone's going to break a slate, it feels like it'd be Jalen Green over Fred VanVleet. So I definitely prefer Green to Fred. Amon looks really strong. The Steven Adams stuff's interesting because coming into it, center wasn't great on this slate, but now we have Drew Eubanks, who's just center only, AD, who's just center only. But that's kind of it on this slate. Like, Giannis has the power forward eligibility. You can play him there. Like, there's Yabusele, who you didn't really like much, and he also has power forward eligibility. Golden State side, not really anything we need to worry about at center. The Trace Jackson-Davis, Loonies of the world, this post, not really good there. And then I guess Brook Lopez is fine at 5.7K. Portland, not really sure how interested center is there. So Steven Adams definitely, I think, has to be in play. At what number would you be happy to get from him? Again, I think Eubanks will be very popular. The AD pairing, so that would eliminate being able to play Adams, AD, and Eubanks. But 3.3K easily can get you an AD, a Giannis, etc. He's only playing like 15 minutes, though. 23, 19. Like, what? Throw me a number that you'd be happy with that he could be on the optimal.
I would say it has to be close to 20, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 19 could do it.
Yeah, 19. Like anything on like the 19 to 21 range, I think you'd be pretty happy with. But then you would need AD and Giannis to smash on that occasion. Like if there's a different scenario where like Maxey and somebody else in like the 5K range gets you a combined better score than like a Giannis and Adams gets you, then you'd probably be upset with 19 or 20. Yeah, so you really need like 60 plus from Giannis, I would say, which is definitely possible. It's a good matchup for him.
Yeah, and just what Ross said, for sure. Not only do you need Adams to perform, you do need the guys you are spending up to. I just feel a lot better with Giannis and them getting there than Steven Adams is more of a risk, obviously. What yeah, exactly. But it's just such a mess, the front court for Golden State in terms of fantasy. Like, that's why I'm talking. I don't think any center's really relevant. Ooh, appreciate it. Super chat. Appreciate that, Josh. $1.99 sleeper pick Q post Golden State. You know what he's saying?
He's saying that's his sleeper pick on the slate. Quinn Post. I kind of yeah. That's in the next game. So I was gonna I kind of perked up when you said something about him because I have some stuff.
See, look at that. Well, so Lachlan and Josh and Rio all on the same page, and then I'm the donkey that has no interest really at any center there. But yeah, we're about to get to that. Shout out Josh. We appreciate that. $1.99. I know we haven't got to the Bucks situation, but 4-game slate can answer some questions. Dame or Amon?
I don't know. I mean, it's different positions and slightly different price tags. I guess it kind of
Amon's got the point guard too. He does have guard and forward eligibility, but
yeah, I mean, I kind of would just lean on projections there. Like I would probably just choose Dame if I had the 8,700 to go at point guard.
Gotcha.
But cool. if I can get something from that 700, I get down to Amen. Like if that gets me, something better in the mid tier, I would probably go with the Amen side.
There we go. I love it. And yeah, we'll get to that, but it's definitely a Dame revenge night. He might be chucking a few threes, that's for sure. All right, 2 games left. So those 2 games were at 7:30 Eastern. Now we're going to the 2 games at 10 p.m. Eastern. Golden State Warriors and the Utah Jazz. Again, this line open. So we had 12.5 for the Warriors. Now it's 13.5. So moved 1 point and went to 14. Little buyback on the Jazz. 228 total. Again, 13.5 point favorites are the Warriors. The reason for the line movement and everything, right when we got on the show, Walker Kessler, Lauri Markkanen, John Collins, and Jordan Clarkson all ruled out, and Cody Williams, if that means anything. You said you were surprised Sexton didn't get ruled out too. Man, that would make them even more thin and better plays. What they do have, I didn't refresh this yet, but they have Collier, they have Speed, Keontae George, but he actually has a price tag. Sensabaugh looks interesting. Again, the biggest play right here and where I expect the most ownership to go. When you talk, I'll refresh it. But Drew Eubanks, starting for Walker Kessler, only 4,100. Seems like a very strong play. Like I said, what ownership wouldn't he be? If you could talk any red flags. No better team, though. No better person to dive deep into this Jazz news on a win that it just got as the Utah Jazz fan himself. Hey, how far are you from the stadium too? You're pretty far, aren't you?
About an
Couple
hour away.
hours. Yeah, not. Oh yeah, obviously the game's not home. But are you gonna get to any Jazz games when you're out there, and then break down Jazz situation on the Warriors?
Yeah, I would definitely like to. I mean, it sucks that the Jazz are so bad right now because they probably have. I'm obviously biased, but probably one of the best fan bases. Like they were selling out every game last year, and they were losing every game. Like that's how loyal these fans are, because it's really the only show in town. But you have the
Nothing
Utah
else to
Hockey
do in
Club.
Utah. Hey,
Hey,
nothing else to do.
the winters, man. You go hit the slopes, go to the breweries. It's a good time out here. Yeah, so I would definitely like to catch a game. Got to hit up the rep and see if we can get some tickets, but don't want to bother him too much after the UFC event.
Sharp.
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously, when I wrote up the slate plan, you'll see that there's really no Jazz in there besides Walker Kessler. That's obviously going to change because we didn't get that injury news till right before. So kind of breaking this down on the spot, but yeah, would expect a starting lineup of. I think it's still going to be Collier. They've been having Keontae George coming off the bench lately, which I've been just kind of confused by. But they'll be going with probably Collier, Sexton, for sure Eubanks, and then probably Svi and Flip is what I would imagine. Filipkowski. I can actually check, see if Basketball Monster has an updated. Okay, so they got Micah Potter in there as the potential starter tonight. So that makes sense. They've been doing that lately.
Over Flip?
Yeah, they've been going Potter over Flip for
Okay.
I don't know the reasoning behind it, but yeah, I mean it's still kind of a situation I don't really want to get super deep into. Like I think that Eubanks is still pretty good. I will note that the Warriors' rim defense has been really good this season, and even as of late, they've been really struggling as a team on both sides of the court. But defensively, they've really been getting off track. Trying to see what I had them ranked, but I think they're in like they're top or bottom 6 this month in defensive rating, but their rim defense has been one of the best all season long, but awful. It's more so a reflection on them being just so bad in 3-point defense. They're like towards the bottom of the league this past month and on the season. But still, they're not giving up a lot of rim volume. So from a scoring perspective, not the best spot for Eubanks, but he's cheap, going to get the start. 4.1K is a really good price tag for him. Pretty solid per minute guy. So he'd probably be the best option on the Jazz side tonight. I'm probably just going to make a pretty strict rule on these guards, just at these prices being max 1 of Sexton, Keontae, and Collier. I like Collier the most, especially if he's coming in with modestly low ownership in the single digits, because he's shown a really strong role, kind of taking over what Keontae was doing earlier this season. The assist numbers look really good. Like he's a true point guard, and I think they're kind of realizing that now, that Collier or Keontae George is not a point guard. Like he was drafted as a point guard, and they've been using him as a point guard the last year and a half, but he's just not a true point guard. Like he's a pure scorer, just a slightly undersized shooting guard. So I think they're trying to groom Collier more into being the true point guard, and he's run that role really well. You see double-digit assist a handful of times in his last 5 or 6 games, right around 8 assists in the last couple of games. So yeah, I think that Collier looks really good. Matchup is not great with the Warriors being pretty solid with their on-ball defense, but I think that the role is pretty solid for him. And then Svi, if he's starting, good matchup for 3-point shooters. Kind of expensive for him when all he really does is shoot, but he's going to chuck when he's out there. Like anytime the ball touches his hands, it's going up, and he's a pretty solid shooter actually, pretty efficient from 3-point range. So I think that he's okay. And I probably don't think I'm going to get to too much Filipkowski. I don't know. Maybe I have to see what the projections and minutes look like for him. Micah Potter would be pretty interesting at 3.5K. He just doesn't really do a lot though, so I don't know. It's probably just Eubanks. Svi is okay, and I think Collier is pretty good. And then Keontae and Sexton are kind of just like low-owned, overpriced plays that you would get to if you're game stacking. Like if you play one of Sexton, Keontae, get another Jazz piece like Eubanks in there, and then maybe get like a Steph and Wiggins. It's kind of easy to stack up this game just because the prices for both sides are pretty cheap. Outside of Steph, 8.8K is even cheap for him. Wiggins 6.8K is kind of overpriced, but on a small slate, that's a pretty good tag when you consider you can get to a game stack here. But definitely my least favorite game, 2-game stack. So yeah, in summation, I would say the Jazz side is pretty much Eubanks at the top of the list, and everybody else is kind of pretty far down. For the Warriors side, though, I think it's a lot more interesting. I'll start with Steph Curry at top because it's a great spot for him. We look to attack the Jazz with guards all season long. Should continue tonight with Steph getting the best possible matchup with how bad the Jazz have been against guards all season long. And losing the guy Walker Kessler is pretty big because their pick and roll defense is towards the top of the league this season, with Kessler really improving in the pick and roll, and the rim defense has been pretty good. Going to get a lot worse there. So there's a lot of avenues for Steph to have a really big game tonight. And they're coming off of a pretty bad loss to the Lakers where they were kind of winning for the most part and then kind of imploded in the second half. I don't know if you saw the quote from the post-game interview where the reporter said that they're like 1-21 after I forgot what the quote was, but like after trailing at halftime, like they don't have any comeback wins or something like that. And Steph was like, he's like kind of surprised by that number, and he's basically saying like it's just a reflection on how bad our offense has been this season. But this is a really good get right spot for this whole team. So I think Steph is pretty good. I think Wiggins is even solid at 6.8K with how bad the Jazz are in transition, and the Jazz being one of the most, or I believe the most turnover-prone team in the league. So it could see a game where Wiggins has like 4 or 5 steals, and those lead to a lot of easy transition buckets. And the matchup is great for Buddy Hield too with the catch-and-shoot stuff, but might see his minutes get negatively impacted with Pods coming back and getting healthier because he's looked pretty good in the first 2 games back from injury. 21 and 24 minutes, shot 50% from the field in both of those games. Great matchup for guards. I definitely prefer Pods over Buddy Hield. Moses Moody should be out there if the game blows out, and he pretty much has a decent role off the bench, 20+ minutes probably. So I think that he's pretty good. Guy Santos, I think, could be in your player pool. Would not play him with Gary Payton because they don't overlap at all. And then, the center stuff. So they've been kind of de-emphasizing Trace Jackson-Davis a bit, seeing his minutes come way down. Kevon Looney, same thing. They're kind of running a 3-man rotation out there now. But, there's been a lot of really positive coach speak about Quentin Post. It was kind of what the Warriors were looking for in the trade market where they needed a stretch big. They just didn't have that with Trace and Looney being like your prototypical pick and roll big men. Even Trace Jackson-Davis is kind of undersized at the center position. But Post, he's shown to be a pretty solid shooter, can stretch the floor, had a good game against the Bulls, went 5 for 10 from deep. Steve Kerr has said they wanted to get him more run, and it's definitely shown up with the minutes you see over the last 3 games. Had 23 against the Lakers, 20 against Chicago, 15 against Sacramento, 14 against Boston. Those are the last 4 games. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him get 20 minutes tonight, just in his normal rotation, and possibly even upside for more if the game does blow out. So I definitely believe, or I definitely am in agreement with our guy Josh about the Quinn Post play tonight. I think that he's pretty solid. So I'm going to get to a good bit of him because I think that there's a good amount of hidden upside there that you probably can't get in projections. It's just hard to. We just don't really have a lot of sample size on the kid right now. But if you watch the game, you can definitely see that he's definitely got some game. So I like Quinn Post.
I mean, 5 threes, 10 threes, 4 threes, 4 threes in the last 4 games, which is the only games he's got double-digit minutes. 17, 29, 17, 29% usage. Like, he's definitely involved. The thing is, like, he's just center. And it's not like center's great today, but there's AD, there's Eubanks. Like, if Ayton misses later, too, there's Klingland. And, again, you can there's 2 late games, so you can maybe make some pivots. What are your thoughts on Post versus – I got a couple questions for you. Post versus Steven Adams.
I mean, I would say Adams is probably the safer option because I think that we know what we're going to get from him, whereas Post's role is kind of unknown right now, which is like I would say Post is probably the better GPP play. Yeah, just because like I think that Post probably has – he's definitely got more minutes upside. Like Adams is an older guy, and I don't think they really ever want to get him above 20 minutes, whereas Post, like I wouldn't be surprised to see like 18 normal rotation minutes, and then if the Warriors are up by like 20 in the fourth quarter, he gets like the last 6 minutes or something like that. We're talking, 24, 25 minutes. He could really hit in a big way. So I guess I'm kind of talking myself back onto post.
Yeah, I would agree. Even like the upside, it does feel like post because by far the minutes and the dude chucks. Like he makes 4 threes, like 3 threes. He can most definitely get there in 20 minutes. So I guess I have a little more interest than I initially did. I guess I don't love Steven Adams or post. At the end of the day, you don't need to do 2 centers by any means. Or another question: Pods or Moody? Same exact price. Moody does have guard forward eligibility, which is nice. Pods just point guard, shooting guard, but exact same price. Looking at pretty similar ownership. Any lean there?
Yeah, I like Pods better. I just think that the pure upside is better on Pods. He's been pretty active as a defender as well with the steals. So I think that there's slightly more paths because he does a little bit of ball handling as well when he's staggered away from Steph. So yeah, I think that I like Pods a little bit more than Moody.
Dame so Steph is 8,800, Dame's 8,700. Both will get some ownership. Dame could be 2 times his own. Could it be 2.5 times his own? Really hard to quantify. I know we have Steph for 30 right here, Dame for 31. I think when it's all said and done, people will want to go to the revenge narrative, the closer spread game, etc., and lead into Dame. Maybe I'm wrong because if people go Giannis, maybe they'll don't want to pair him with Dame and they go Steph. So curious on your thoughts 1v1 between the two, and ownership wise, are you more so on the stone, on like our side, the stone, where it'll be pretty close, or do you think more so along the lines of me where Dame gets steam, which in result would have Steph not get as much? Yeah, both those questions.
I think it's going to wind up pretty close. I think people they know what to expect from anybody playing the Jazz at this point. I think that you can look at game logs last night and even see how good Dame did against them. So I think that the ownership is going to be pretty close. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough. I like the matchup more for Steph, and I'll kind of allude to that when we talk about the Milwaukee stuff. But I don't know. It's really like I know how bad the Jazz are defensively, just being a fan of the team. I just think that Steph has a really, really good night tonight. This team, they need to get back on track offensively. So I think that they kind of hone in on getting Steph involved a lot. I could see a pretty high usage rate from him tonight.
I like it. On a 4-game slate, I think for how we've talked about it, everything we've said, I think you can play him in single entry. He'd be the guy that makes your lineup different. You got to get different in 1 or 2 spots. Again, you can play 2 centers. He's really cheap. I think it's both. Thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think that you could probably play him in single entry. The ownership's going to be really low, and I think that's kind of enough to have some interest in him.
Yep.
For all
and
the
then
last thing mentioned too.
Yep. And then last thing, I think that's fine, but I will say Sengun looks pretty strong at center and definitely going to get some ownership on FanDuel. He's 8.7K. AD has power forward eligibility. Giannis doesn't even have center eligibility. He's just power forward. Klingland, if 8 misses, I think is interesting. But yeah, center's not great. 70-30, I guess it would be fine, but I wouldn't just force myself to play 2 centers on 10 teams as a onesie position there. So it'd be fine though. What's up, Mark? Appreciate you stepping in. Hope everything is going well. Last game of the slate, Rio. Great stuff as always. This one should be pretty fun. Milwaukee Bucks, Portland Trailblazers. 6-point favorites are the Bucks, 229 total. Injury report in this one, no Bobby Portis, no AJ Green. As far as the Portland side, DeAndre Ayton is questionable, which is pretty big news. How I'm going to throw it to you right away is, man, I was surprised to see the Bucks just 6-point favorites. Any thoughts there? And then break down this game.
Yeah, that's literally the first thing, the first notes I had on this game was that exact thing. I was very surprised to see Milwaukee only 6-point favorites. But yeah, I mean, as you look into it a little bit more, obviously Milwaukee's been playing really well as of late. One of the better teams this month, I would say. The record maybe not the best. They're 9-4, which is definitely solid, but top 5
playing good ball.
Yeah, top 5 defense, top 7 offense. So they're definitely playing a lot better. And last night was just a huge morale win for them, I would say. Obviously, Utah is a team you should put up a lot of points against. but all of Middleton, Dame, and Giannis had a huge game, and they talked about that in the post-game press conference, just saying that, you know, when everything is clicking like that, it's kind of, they're tough to beat, and I definitely agree with them. Like, but there's a lot of moving parts with them coming up too, with the trade deadline stuff. You've seen a lot of talk about Bobby Portis possibly getting traded, talk about Connaughton and Middleton, all these guys getting traded. So there's a lot of moving pieces. But yeah, initial thoughts was I was definitely surprised to see the spread being is what it is. But on the other side of things, like Portland has not been playing terribly either. They're 14th in defensive rating this month, so they're middle of the pack. Their record has been okay this month. They're doing a good job taking away the three-pointer, but the rim defense has suffered as a result. The Bucks are the complete opposite. Rim defense has been great. Three-point defense not as great, but it's not terrible. Both these teams are allowing some transition points. Portland a lot worse there, so good matchup for Giannis in that sense. But Milwaukee continues to be one of the bigger on-ball funnels with the bottom 6 ranked pick-and-roll defense this season. But yeah, I think Giannis is probably the top spin on the slate, just for the reasons I mentioned. Transition defense not good for Portland. The rim defense has not been that great. I will say it definitely gets a little bit better with Klingon down low. He looks like he's going to be a very good shot blocker in the league. I know that Little Neck has been tracking that stuff. He's got like a insanely high block percentage this season. But he's limited right now, so he's returning from a couple injuries. They're not going to play him like 26. So he'll still be matched up with guys like Robert Williams and Jabari Walker, two undersized guys down low. So I think that Giannis is for sure one of the best spends on the slate. Damian Lillard been playing great as of late. Last 3 games has 2 triple-doubles, 54 plus DK points in all 3 of those games. I do think the matchup could be a little bit tougher tonight with Toumani Camara, likely seeing him defensively. I still have a lot of interest tonight in Dame, but with Middleton now being probable, I was expecting him to miss. It's not enough for me to like full fade Dame. I still think he's a great option, especially with how good he's playing right now and playing a ton of minutes, coming back home to Portland where he played most of his career. I definitely think he's going to want to show out, probably play another 40 minutes tonight. So probably enough to just say that the matchup doesn't matter too much. But like I said, I like the matchup better for Steph, so I'll be leaning into Steph a little bit more. But I don't really have a lot of negative things to say about Dame outside of the matchup being slightly tougher. So I do like him. No Portis tonight, so we've seen Brook Lopez really get a huge boost in minutes as of late, playing a ton of minutes right now. This hasn't really shown a lot of upside in those minutes, so you really have to hope that you're running into a hot shooting night from Brook. But I will say that there is a very clear path to upside for him. The Blazers are allowing the most blocks per game to opposing centers. That's where you kind of want to play into Brook Lopez, where he gets those, 5 blocks, something like that, and then a couple steals. And then if you run into a hot shooting night where he makes 4 or 5 threes, because that's all he's going to do is shoot threes, like I wouldn't be surprised at the end of the night you see him with 40, 45 DK points, and he's optimal. So I definitely want to get to some Brook Lopez for that reason. Middleton's okay, but a little cautious that the minutes might be held in check here off a back-to-back. Did play 27 last night, so that's kind of on the higher end of things for him. Probably would imagine he's closer to like 24. But good matchup, so I don't mind him. Taurean Prince and Gary Trent Jr. I was much more interested in those guys, assuming Middleton was out. But now that he's in and we have the Jazz value, probably don't need to get to those guys. But I think they're okay. Random spike in playmaking for Taurean Prince lately, which I wouldn't say is very sticky, but he's had 4, 4, and 8 assists in his last 3 games. So I don't know like where that's coming from, but thought that was noteworthy. On the Portland side of things, I don't mind Denny, but I would prefer him if I'm playing this game as a game stack, because we do see his minutes get really, really pushed in close games. Played 38 against OKC, put up 54 DK points. He does a little bit of everything as he kind of plays that point forward position for Portland. So I think that he's probably a guy that I would look to as a correlating piece on Portland if I'm playing some Milwaukee guys. Probably the first guy I would look to, just because I just don't really have a lot of faith in Anthony Simons. The matchup should be really good with how the Bucks are allowing a lot of three-point volume and pick-and-roll scoring. But the results are very up and down on a nightly basis, so you have to hope that you get a good Anthony Simons night. And I'll just kind of spill the beans that anytime I played him, I've never gotten a good score out of him. I had a sweat for a live final seat a few weeks ago, and I think I just needed like an average scoring night from Simons, and he had like 4 DraftKings points at the half and 0 real points. I think he finished with 11 or 12 or something like that. So I'm definitely a little scarred from that, but I've been the anti-list guy, so he's not on my list, but he's probably the first guy that would go on it if there were somebody. But yeah, the matchup is really good for him, and he's got a really cheap price tag, so there's a lot of things working in his favor. But I'll say just from what I'm seeing projected ownership, what we have and what I'm seeing around the industry, 30+% from Simons feels kind of bad in my opinion. But yeah, I don't know. I would probably come in like closer to the field, if not slightly under. And then the secondary guys like Grant and Kamara have good matchups. Grant is solely scoring dependent, so probably not enough upside for him at 5.6K. But I think Kamara is okay at 5.6K because he's probably going to see a lot more minutes tonight than usual. I got to look back at the previous games. I don't know if this is the first time Dame has gone back to Portland or the second, but I believe that Chauncey Billups really ran up his guys' minutes a lot in that game. Just the narrative, like Chauncey seems like a guy that would kind of buy into those narratives. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see like 38 from Denny, like 36, 37 from Kamara, 36 from Simons, 34 from Grant, something like that. But yeah, I don't mind Kamara. He had one of his better games, one of his most efficient shooting games as a pro, shot 5 for 5 from deep, 8 for 11 from the field. Rebounding rates have been really solid for him as of late. Going to play a ton of minutes. I don't mind him. And then Klingon should get the start for Aiden, but I don't think that would. I'm not sure if I would play him over Eubanks. Obviously, different price. Just because the minutes are going to be held in check. They're pretty cautious with him right now. He's had the ankle and the knee injury. He had a huge brace on for a while when he came back from that knee injury. So definitely still dealing with that and not taking really many shots. The matchup is awful, like I mentioned, with the Bucks being elite with their rim defense. So you're gonna need just a 14 rebounding game with a couple blocks to kind of hit value there.
Great breakdown. I love Denny. I always love Denny. I think he's a very good basketball player. When the minutes are up, he can get it done in so many ways and break a slate. Also, don't think ownership really follows, so in on that. The Simon stuff is tough because, like, initially I just want to like Simons a lot, and I do, but he's getting a lot of ownership. So, like, game log-wise, usage has been down, all that, but him and Dame are, like, best friends. Like, Dame pretty much mentored Simons. You're mentioning the Chauncey stuff. It's already a great matchup, period, for Simons. This feels like one of the games where he could put up 20 shots, 25 shots, and at 6.1K, there's definitely a lot of upside there. But again, looking at game log, it's been gross. He hasn't shot the ball great, but the usage has come way down in the past like week or so than where it has to start the year, where it was last year. So I guess a little cautious. Still 6'6", 12 threes, like good matchup. Again, the Dame stuff. I do believe Simons getting up for this game a little more than usual. Close spread. If Blazers do cover, I think a lot of it has to do with Anthony Simons having a good shooting game. So he is getting owned, though. But the price tag is very appealing. Definitely like the Denny call. Kamara is going to be super low owned. So if you are game stacking, I do probably prefer in a game stack. But you stroked him a little bit, so I don't hate it. Dame looks really strong. Giannis. The Brook stuff, yeah. I mean, obviously a little bias here. Brook helped me win at 3% ownership, but he just chalks from deep. And if he does, those do go in, and you already mentioned the block upside in this matchup against Portland. If he's hot from deep, like he easily could get you 35 DK points in the slate, which you definitely take at a solid center position, but not phenomenal. If I'm playing Brook, I am more likely to probably play 2 centers in those builds. But yeah, I mean, ownership's going to stay in check. Like, I think we are definitely hot. Again, all this with Kessler out, none of the Jazz and the ownership updated. No way Brook will be 21%. He will definitely be lower. Giannis still my favorite play, though. Like, he should be 12-7. We said about Jokic yesterday, 13-5, 14K. Giannis is still underpriced. So I definitely want a piece of that. Yeah, you did miss it. We touched on Reeves a little bit. We thought Rio mainly, but I agree that 38 minutes, low ownership, looks like a pretty interesting low-owned pivot on a slate like this. Any final thoughts, Rio? 4 games. Again, main injury news we're waiting on. Trae Young, which we will get. Ayton, which we probably won't get. The random maybe Sextons of the world. People talking maybe Bucks someone gets ruled out because of the spread, I'm not going to be playing like that because the Bucks just released their injury report. Like, we were surprised Middleton played. He was doubtful, but he's probable. So I'm going to assume him, Dame, Giannis, all of them are playing. And if not, we obviously have to adjust. But any final thoughts on the slate? Great job as always.
Yeah, I guess I'll just leave with I would definitely try to be prepared for some weird stuff to happen in Milwaukee because they are probably the worst team at filing injury news. Like, I know they list these guys probable, but how many times in the past have we seen Giannis probable and then just immediately downgraded to out? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if something like that happened tonight. So,
so how are you going to make any adjustment? Like, someone said AD or Giannis. Like, if you think that's a 10% outcome or 20% outcome, I think you have to make at least some adjustments in your portfolio if you're MMEing or something. And I highly doubt the field does. Like I just said myself, I mean, they're probable. I'm going to assume they're probable, but we obviously have seen it. The only problem is, like we said, there's 2 games. And you look at the problem, you spend 11-7 for Giannis. The next highest priced guys, Steph, Dame, nobody else. Like, you got to have multiple. And more than likely you will have multiple spots because it's 2 games to make more switches. But I guess, are you going to have a plan in all your lineups? It's really hard to do an MME portfolio. So I guess AD, Giannis, are you going to change anything with your thought there?
It's going to be tough. I'm going to have to run some initial builds and see what I'm getting in that Utah Golden State game because I'd feel pretty bad if Giannis got ruled out and I'm left with 4K just switching. Like, if say I had Giannis at util and I had to drop down to Dame,
you're not
obviously that would suck because then you're missing out on because you're probably playing some value that is shaky in the first place and might not even get there. So I'd feel pretty bad if that's the case. So definitely have to play around with it. You're probably going to want 2 other guys in that late window if you have Giannis, something like that. I would imagine would definitely want to get to Dame, and then you could probably get to Denny to fill up that forward position, and then whatever you're left with at util is probably how I would try to play it out. You should be left with something like a 6K-ish player, so might be able to get to Simon, something like that. If that's the case, I'd feel good about that swap. If I had Dame or I had Giannis, Collier, and Post, I'm just making up a scenario right now, and I get off of Giannis to Dame, Denny, and Simons. That feels like a good swap. I don't know if that's equal salary, but that's kind of something.
Yeah. Moral of the story, it hit. You don't want to be leaving a lot of money in NBA pretty much ever. And if you don't if you're single entry building, I guess maybe have a couple thoughts on pivots, but more than likely then you're fading the ADs of the world earlier, the Maxis of the world, the LeBrons of the world, where they're going to probably have a pretty solid raw score. Before we get on out of here, we did get news. No Trae Young in. Trae Young is in. Bogdan is out. I still don't know if that does enough. I don't think it does personally. I mean, Bogdan has not been great for this team by any means. The Hawks are pretty priced up. You mentioned DeAndre Hunter. So does he get the biggest boost, 5.7K?
I would imagine – I don't think that his role would change as much. Maybe he sees 30 tonight instead of 28 from normal role standpoint. But it's probably Garrison Matthews is getting the biggest role increase, I would say. He's probably stepping into that Bogdan role, which is not a lot. I'm not saying that Matthews is in play because he's 4.4K. But that's the guy I would imagine is stepping into a larger role tonight. There's enough bodies on this team, and they're all priced up. I still just don't think it's probably a situation that's even easier to avoid now, especially if Hunter's getting more ownership. I'd be under the field on Atlanta tonight.
I agree. I don't think it matters much, but wanted to get that out there. Awesome stuff, Rio. Again, any other injury news does pop up, always Rio tags the Discord, lets everybody know. Projections updated throughout the night. Any changes to the core report, always updated in yellow as well. PGA going on, locks early Thursday. Good week for that. I'm excited. MMA back this week, 8 straight weeks. Of course, we do have NFL. One more game left. NHL still going out. Shout out to Nades. NASCAR will be back before you know it. Hey, next thing you know, we'll be talking some MLB here. Crazy how fast time goes. All we ask, like button, subscribe button on the way out. Helps us out a ton. And again, ship 50 gets you $50 off your first month. No better deal out there. Get in the Discord if you do join. I don't know, Zevin, I hope you just got in here. Unless
we talked about him a lot.
Yeah, unless you were listening on mute, but probably go back like 25 minutes when we talked the Jazz Warriors game, and Rio talked about post in depth there. So appreciate every single one watching. Thank you, Russell. Thank you all for tuning in. We will be back tomorrow. Rio and I talking. I haven't looked ahead, but I assume Wednesday. That means it has to be more than 4 games. Awesome stuff, Rio. Good luck tonight. Good luck to everybody out there. For Rio, I'm Title Town. Be safe. Good luck. Peace.